What's up, everyone? All right, well, I'm sitting here with my first no trade day of 2025. This is pretty rare. It happened a few times last year, and we've got my first one here this year. So a no trade day, as it sounds, is a day where I sit down and I sit through my whole window, the window where I typically make the most money, and I don't see a single setup that I like, and thus I have no trades. So if we look at my screen share here, you can see my P&L. Nothing. I got nothing that I trade today. So I'll walk you through the stocks that popped up on the scans and my process of how I talked myself out of taking any trades on them. So when I first sat down, our leading gapper was WLDS. This is a stock that I looked at and I said, well, the problem is it popped up at 4 a.m., formed that large topping tail. It came back up around 6:30, and coming into 7, it's actively selling off. This is not a clean setup. It's also true that it's a little on the cheaper side. Now, generally, if it's above 2, I'm kind of more okay with considering it. But in any case, topping tail, selling off, and coming back down towards 2, this was a no-go. And then there was also the fact that I couldn't understand what the catalyst was that was driving this higher. There was not a clear news headline. So the lack of a clear news headline made it so this just didn't meet my criteria for being a stock worth trading. So if we go back on the high day momentum scanner, we can go back to a little earlier. Then around 7:30, we had HIMS hit the scans. And this one squeezed from $28 to $42 a share, which is a huge move. However, it's too expensive. I don't usually like trading these higher priced stocks, and the float is 190 million shares. In spite of that, it did make a big move. There's no question. It made a really impressive move. But I didn't take any trades on it. The price and the float being too high. Maybe if I had already built a cushion on something else, I might have considered it. But typically that price and float are just a no-go for me. It's a non-starter. So that hit the scanner a bunch of times. Then we had LFMD that hit the scanner. 37 million share float, easy to borrow, popped up, dropped down, popped up, dropped down, popped up, dropped down. And if you watch my recap yesterday, I said right now we're in a pop and drop market. We're seeing the pops and then the big rejection. Now, yesterday I was able to make a little bit of money, but I recognized I got to be careful. I don't want to overstay my welcome, because if I end up getting in one of these and we get a really dramatic flush, it's going to wipe out a lot of the small base hits because the flushes are so big. So today I said I'm going to be extra cautious and I'm going to look for something that is really solid and I'm going to give it a chance to fail. And if, given the chance to fail and it doesn't fail, I'm going to, in other words, I'm going to assume that anything that pops up is going to fail. And if it doesn't, only at that point will I be interested. So LFMD gave it a chance, but the float being too high, being easy to borrow, that didn't work, and that doesn't surprise me. Then the next one was TIVC. Briefly hit the scanner, no catalyst, no news, sells off. Didn't fall for that trap. Good. Then OMH. Now the problem with OMH is that this one popped up earnings, revenue growth. So, this was the catalyst that I traded yesterday, and the stock ended up going up, but then being down like 20% on the day later. So it didn't hold up very well at all. This one pops up, topping tail, drops back down. Comes back up again, surges all the way to 360, a massive topping tail, comes all the way back down to 220. That's kind of intense. Then it goes back up to 3. And in this area, I was watching it, but for this first 1 minute candle to make a new high, the MACD had already gone negative. So I did not take a trade on OMH. It was almost set up for a trade right in this area, but it didn't quite happen. So OMH ended up pulling back, no trades on that one. And then let's see, a couple other stocks hit the scans, LAZR, SUNE, LFMD was back on the scans, AMIX was on the scans, didn't see a catalyst to support the move, no trades. JAGX, didn't see a catalyst to support the move, no trades. And then, all of a sudden we're coming up to 10 a.m. and I'm thinking, all right, if I have 0 trades at this point in the morning, is this the time that I should be breaking the ice with my first trade? The answer is no. So for those of you guys who have heard me say this before, it sounds like a broken record, but in, let's see, I think it's in this book by Annie Duke where she talks about the taxi drivers in New York City who would make more money if they worked longer on the days when they were picking up a lot of fares and they stopped sooner on the days when nothing was happening. And so today's an example of that philosophy. Why sit here all day long when there's nothing happening in the market? There's no reward for it. I'm just going to expend energy and I'm going to get nothing in return. So today's the type of day where it makes sense to walk away sooner. Now, on the flip side, last week we had a couple days where the market was really high and it made sense to dig deep, to trade a little longer, and I was able to lock up quite a bit of profit. So now that put me in a nice position where today I don't feel the pressure. You know, I kind of got a little bit of a head last week. So now I feel like I can sort of be patient and really wait for good quality setups, and I don't have to force it. So if we look at my P&L here, just for the last 30 days approximately, you know, you can see the last 30 days sitting at $461,000. When there's something that looks good, I know how to step up to the plate. Today, there was nothing that looked good. So if I was hesitating, you know, or someone might say, well, you missed HIMS. I wouldn't say I missed it. I looked at it, it didn't meet my criteria, therefore I couldn't manage risk and I chose not to take a trade. I didn't miss anything, I chose not to trade it. It didn't fit my profile of what I make money on. So when I see something that fits my profile, I don't hesitate. I hit that buy button, I jump in an instant. The problem today was that, you know, if I was hesitating, it's because, or you might have seen that way, it's because nothing really looked quite right. OMH, it was close, but didn't quite, you know, fill that sort of final criteria for the setup. The MACD was negative. And although we had a couple stocks that did go up with the negative MACD last week, today, given how slow it felt, didn't feel like the day to take that kind of risk. Now, OMH is curling back up. The MACD is positive right now. It may give traders another opportunity, but the problem here with it is that now you deal with circuit breaker halts because the market is open. Pre-market, you've got no halt levels, but at the open, you have halts. So now that's going to kind of put a little bit of threshold or a cap on how much volatility you can get before, boom, you've got a halt and you just have to sit and wait for the resumption. So for me, at this point, the writing is on the wall. There were not any really obvious setups, and I'm not going to overstay my welcome. So today's the day it's an opportunity to give some exercise to that muscle of discipline. That's a really important thing. Not to force trades on low quality setups. It's unnecessary. You don't get anything for it. It's not worth it. So here we go. This is a no trade day, but I'll be back at it first thing tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. live streaming. Hopefully tomorrow we get a stock that actually puts out some really good news. That was the issue today. We didn't have any really good, juicy headlines. I mean, you know, there's thousands of stocks in the market, of course. Usually each day there's at least one that puts out a good headline. And you know what? There were some good headlines. I shouldn't say that because there were. HIMS was a good headline. It just didn't happen to fit my criteria for being the type of stock I typically would make money on. So, and there were a couple others that made some moves, but you know, they're a little cheaper. WW right now is up quite a bit. But you know, this isn't the type that I would typically do well on. So yeah, so cheaper, no trades on it. All right, so that's it for me. Thank you guys as always for tuning in. If you haven't already checked out our 2-week trial, you're welcome to do that. Link is pinned to the top comments and in the description. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, bright and early live streaming. Reminder, as always, trading is risky. My results aren't typical. So please manage your risk, take it slow, and always practice in a simulator before putting real money on the line.